You guys doing? So we now know Black Panther is getting a buff. So let's look at his buff on paper. I'm not gonna go through all of them. If you want the full details of Black Panther's buff, go to Marvel Contest of Champion. So I'm just gonna tell you the pros and cons about Black Panther's buff. So let's look at the pros. So now critical hits have a 100% chance to apply a bleed. Before it was 80% chance to apply a bleed when critical hits. And now all attacks gain a cruelty passive granting 1 plus 158 critical damage rating. Keep in mind this is a rank 5 level 65 base stats. Intercepting the opponent or striking them while they are recovering from a heavy or a special attack grants an additional cruelty passive. While striking into an auto block, Panther is immune to stun. That's a really big pro for Black Panther's buff. This will counter Medusa, MODOK, any champion that has a capable of auto block. So Black Panther has a new mode called Panther Smite. So let's look at what it means. So when you're in Panther Smite, you gain a precision passive for each personal cruelty passive. Also, bleed debuffs gain plus 8% duration for each personal cruelty active on Black Panther. So you can have as much as 15 max personal cruelty, so that's 120% duration max when it comes to his bleeds. That's a really big plus, but you do need to be in Panther Smite. Attacks reduce opponent's defense ability accuracy by 50%. That's a big pro as well when it comes to Black Panther's buff. Also, when you intercept the opponent with a special attack 1 and 2, each hit of the attack is not only guaranteed critical hit, it implies an additional bleed debuff. Another pro to him is he now can, when he intercepts the opponent, has a 100% chance to purify 1 debuff from Black Panther. This will vary on your signature ability. Each bleed debuff on the opponent decreases their defensive ability accuracy by 10%, max 5 bleeds. So like I mentioned, this will depend on your how high is your signature ability. So as you can see, when you have 5 bleeds on the opponent, if you're max sig, you should be able to have a 50% defensive ability accuracy. Also, when you have Panther Smite at the same time, you have another 50% defense ability accuracy, meaning that you're going to be 100% defense ability accuracy reduction on the opponent. This will be a great counter for Electro, Magic, Thing. So that's definitely a big plus. Well, technically not Thing because he cannot bleed, but every time he bleeds, he does lose a rock stack. So it's still a good counter regardless. So those are the pros. So the also in the pros is he now has a synergy with Storm that gives him an unblockable passive for 1 second when you're activating a special attack. As well, Storm gets a 20% special attack damage for every shock he has on the opponent, max 5 stacks. He has a synergy with Killmonger, where intercepting the opponent grants Black Panther True Strike passive for 10 seconds, and really good synergy for Killmonger can activate special 3 bleeds an additional 1 time per fight. So those are the pros when it comes to Black Panther's buff. So I have to say I'm disappointed because I'm about to tell you the cons when it comes to Black Panther's buff. There are more cons than pros when it comes to Black Panther's buff. So let's look at one pro. Let's look at one con already. Is when it comes to his critical hits, they reduced the bleed damage on the opponent. It was 1495 on a level 5 6, rank 5 star. Now it's only 1035.45. That's really disappointing. They nerfed that. Very disappointing on that. They also made them harder to play. So instead of your regular 5-hit combo, you pretty much need to try dashing out early after 2 or 3 hits to gain 1 charge. So you pretty much have to play, you can't play very standard. You have to take risk to get the most damage from Black Panther. He's definitely going to be much harder to play with to get damage from his buff than before. Another nerf they gave Black Panther is his special 3. It used to be when you activate your special 3, there's a 90% chance of like uh, an additional bleed on the opponent for every bleed that your opponent has. So even with just 6 bleeds, which is very easy if you have the Tigra synergy, that's already more than 5 bleeds. So let's say, and you could easily, and even 10 is pretty constant with Tigra synergy. So that's 9 bleeds you could have with a 90% chance to get it. This is only up to 5 bleeds, which is very disappointing. So they nerfed the special 3, they nerfed the critical bleed chance, they made them harder to play. Very disappointed on the buff, to be honest. And even more disappointing is they nerf the synergy when it comes to Tigra. Tigra synergy update, it really should just be synergy nerf, or they should just retitle it as synergy nerf, because that's what it is. It's really disappointing they nerf Tiger synergy. So instead of what it used to be, or when you inflict a bleed on an opponent, there's a 90% chance you'll gain another bleed on the opponent. Now they got rid of that. They pretty much uh, replace it with additional cruelty passive from all hits. Before they always had that. They had like for every bleed you can gain like critical damage, like I believe 50 critical damage for every bleed on the opponent. Now it's every hit. Instead, they just pretty much change it to every hit instead of every bleed. It's pretty much the same thing. So what they got rid of is replacing the they got rid of for every bleed, there's a 90% chance that you'll gain an additional bleed on the opponent. Such a big nerf, just so disappointing. When it comes to Hulkbuster, they also nerf his synergy. Instead of before it was 40% bleed accuracy and 40% potency, now it's just plus 25% bleed duration. I'm so disappointed on the way. Why can't they just make the champion better than they are? I just don't get it. I mean, I would have been happy with a modern buff to Black Panther. If they can't do an overhaul correctly, they should just do a modern buff. I really would have been happy with a modern buff. Let's see what kind of buff they could have done if it was just a modern buff. They could have just what? Okay, what is this? Critical hits have a 100% chance to apply bleed. That's number one. They could have done instead. Could have kept that for the modern buff. Also, all attacks have a 100% chance to gain cruelty passive. That's another one. That's two. While striking into an auto, Black Panther is immune to stun. That's three. For a modern buff, I would have applied. What else? The signature ability. Intercepting the opponent has a 100% chance to verify one of each debuff from Black Panther. They could have added that for a modern buff. And I would have been fine if they had removed the current signature ability, where there's the 8% chance you will be able to take a opponent's bleed by 80% of your base attack. So that's going to take a hit on his damage, but I would have been okay if they got rid of that and replaced it with this ability. Each bleed debuff on the opponent decreased their defense ability accuracy by 10%, max 5 bleeds. So instead of max 5, they could just say max 10 bleeds, right? So that means they can reduce the opponent's defense ability accuracy by 100%. So get rid of Panther Smite. I would have just been happy with those modern buffs. Also, add the Storm synergy, add the Killmonger synergy. That's it. Very simple modern buff. It's not gonna make him broken champion. It's gonna give him more utilities. It's gonna make him more harder. But that's it. That's not that difficult. I don't know why they have to change the champion completely. There has to be a reason. I don't know why. I'm really disappointed with the buff that they gave Black Panther, in my opinion. Thank you.